Welcome to YogiViews, where my guest is yoga itself, through interviewing those who practice it, teach it, sell it, or simply love it. I am Antonio Saucis. Yoga is considered today a multi-billion-dollar business in the United States. How do making money and spirituality combine in our modern world? How can a business model apply to selling something that we already have within us? Does it work? To answer these questions, I invited the owner of the Stress Management Center of Marin, Robin Gueth. Welcome, Robin.
Thank you.
I should say welcome back.
Yes, thank you.
Pleasure to have you again here.
Thank you.
Robin Gueth is a 30-year veteran in yoga and has been teaching yoga therapy for 20 years. She is a graduate of the American Yoga College, directed by Rama Jyoti Vernon, and is certified in Nischala Devi's Yoga of the Heart program. She has studied with Angela Farmer and Victor van Kooten, and her background includes Kripalu yoga, Iyengar yoga, Shiatsu and Thai massage, Feldenkrais, Dharma and Acu-Yoga. She is skilled in working with various types of mental illness, respiratory illness, and orthopedic issues. Her studio, the Stress Management Center of Marin, is the first Bay Area studio being awarded accreditation in yoga therapy training from the International Association of Yoga Therapists. This is the second part of a two-part show where I'm interviewing Robin Gueth. And in this Marin Catholic where you teach the men, do you call it yoga?
Sure.
Ah.
Sure. For the football team, they call it yoga for football. Absolutely. When I go into the school and speak, sometimes we call it breathing and stretching, right? Sometimes we call it good practices to study with and good practices to relieve stress. We call it stress management. Mm-hmm. I'm happy to call it whatever anybody wants to call it. I am not the least bit attached to the term as much as I hold it dear for myself. My goal is to make it accessible to other people. Mm-hmm. So I am fine with calling it breathing and stretching. I'm fine with calling it stress management and focusing exercises. It's all fine. It's not a problem for me. I think the football players call it yoga, but we didn't when we first got there, but they call it that, and they come to the studio and take class. But you know what happened for a lot of the football players after the first season, a lot of them went off to college, and my boys that went to UCLA came back and said, oh, UCLA has a football yoga program. And some of my boys went to Oregon, oh, they have yoga for football. And
they had it elsewhere than in California before here?
Wow. Oh, of course. And then when the 49ers made it to the Super Bowl against the New Orleans Saints, and the power went out, if you'll recall, in New Orleans, half of the 49ers headed down onto the field and started doing yoga on the field. And I had 5 new young male athletes in my studio after that because their mothers said, that's what I'm talking about. Look, they're doing it. You know, it was decades ago that I think Baron Baptiste was the yoga coach for the Philadelphia Phillies. Mm-hmm. Decades ago. Mm-hmm. So, yoga for football is one of the best matches I have ever seen. So the basic skills of yoga are such a huge relief to the basic tensions and things that you build into a body for a football player, those kinds of short, snap off the line kind of movements. And yoga is perfect for that. It's the perfect foil and the perfect balancing agent for that. But what I liked the best, the first season that I was with the boys, and they were going to state, right? They got all the way to state. It was a really big deal. This was about 6 years ago. And we had the last session with them in the cold and the rain in December, out on the football field, because I teach on the 50-yard line, right, on the football field. And I asked them, what else can I give you? What do you want? What do you need today? Because I felt like we had all given everything we had, and they were going for the one big game. And one of the boys said, Coach, can you talk to us some more about breathing? And I thought, Lord, you can take me now. It doesn't get any better than that, right? So they were asking for ways to manage their energy, manage their adrenaline. These are 17-year-old boys. Nobody thinks they can manage energy and adrenaline. And I'm here to tell you, they do. They do it really well, and they do it with purpose and focus. And some of them changed their majors going on into college to study kinesiology and other kinds of practices because they said, we never knew that we could feel like this. We never knew that we could remedy all of these different things. and you know, it opened their eyes in a really big way. No one had ever taught these kids to really properly breathe and stretch. And when they got that combination, it just opened up a whole new world for a lot of them. It was really exciting, really exciting.
Now, you're talking about breathing and stretches. Do you also meditate or do some devotional or chant
With the football
every
team?
once in a while? Yes.
No.
No.
The football team is very well cared for at Marin Catholic with with the nuns that come to all the games and chapel and the spiritual path that they are all there practicing. So they are well cared for there. And they bring it into their, if you've ever been to a Marin Catholic game, you would see, they bring it into the game. So there is prayer before the game, there is prayer during the game, and at the end of the game there is prayer and thanks, and then all the boys come and thank everyone who comes to see them, and then they sing the Marin Catholic song. I mean, it is very well-rounded, oriented to a very well-rounded person. It's not about, you know, did you play and did you win and now we go home. It's very much about this community experience and about a spiritual life that includes an athletic life as a part of a spiritual life. So maybe I get off easy because I'm within a Catholic school, but they are very well cared for on that level. That's not something that I need to help them with.
And Robin, because the business world is more populated by men than by women, and I'm sure that perhaps some of those businessmen are listening to us, why would you say yoga is good for men?
You know, yoga is, for men, one of the easiest, most direct, straightforward ways to maintain body, mind, focus that I've ever found. And when you lay it out in a very accessible way, I have business executives that look at me and say, I don't know how I got this far without yoga. I don't know how I did it. I had one of my business executives say, I can't imagine my life without it. And it really is a way for him to decompress from a lot of airplanes and decompress from a lot of stress. And he can do it quietly, and he can do it in an introspective way, and he can find a way to come back to some ease, both with his tight muscles and with his breathing and with his focus. Because, you know, the business executives that I work with are pulled a lot of different directions. They might have young families, they have busy lives, and they have a going business. It's a lot of different directions. They're trying to also do sport, they're trying to eat right, they're trying to do it all right. And it's nice to give them practices that are just for them, just when they're alone, when they're quiet, when their plane is delayed, you know, when they're staying in a hotel room somewhere and they've headed up to the hotel room because they don't want to do all that late night dining and all of that, and they're in their hotel room and they've got a few minutes of peace for their backs, for their aches and pains. So no, it's a really great method for them. Now,
Robin, most men are concerned with their sexual performance. Do you think that yoga helps?
I think that having some command of your adrenaline and of your breathing and of your body is always a good thing.
So you wouldn't think there's any specific, because as you know, there are a number of specifically sexual practices of yoga to keep your sexual organs in good shape and in properly served by blood flow. So there's a number of things. It's not just the feeling well part. So,
great. So give me your card and I will put it out, and the men that I speak to that have questions, I will send them your way.
Okay. Okay. Even though your studio is a little bit different because it's not a regular pure yoga studio, you're more dedicated to the therapy. What are the competitive advantages of your place, of your studio?
You know, I consider us a regular yoga studio. Not, I really do.
What I mean to say is
that pure yoga, I really do.
No, but what I mean to say is that you don't have regular, just yoga classes that are not therapeutically intended. So that's why perhaps that's a big difference.
Yeah, for me, that is the regular yoga. For me, that was the original intent. You know,
yes,
ease the body, ease the mind, and then you can sit in your meditation or do whatever it is you're going to do. I would say that from a competitive advantage, I don't think of it so much as competition, but I think that we just got interested in some things that other people don't do. And for instance, you know, I have this problem with, I don't say no to people when they call and they want to do yoga. Oh, I want to do yoga, but I have this issue. I say, come on down. Well, we want to send these folks to do yoga and they have that issue. I say, come on down. So, you know, it never occurred to me that you could ever say no to somebody that wanted to do yoga. I thought yoga was for everybody. So at this point, 15 years down the line, that's how old the studio is, we now have close to 15 years of working with specific groups of schizophrenics, specific groups of the brain injured, specific groups of people with heart disease. And those kinds of things have given us an advantage for people that want to work in yoga therapy because we have decades of experience. That experience took me to be able to work for Dr. Ornish when I got to do one of his retreats. And then that work took me to Kaiser Permanente. So now we are the yoga provider for Kaiser Permanente from a health education standpoint. But now, this year, we have been invited to come in on the clinical side. So that whole never saying no to somebody and gaining more and more experience working with special populations opened doors for us to engage more and more with Western healthcare. So at this point, I am a speaker for Kaiser around the county in stress management. We are providing a whole bunch of yoga classes for them, and we're working in the clinical side with the chronic pain group, and we're helping to develop a plan for physician wellness. We're being asked to get involved in a lot of other ways because they've watched us now for over a decade deliver the goods and have less people going into the back pain seminars and less people going back to their doctors looking for pain meds and, you know, more people feeling stronger and better. So I think that that leaving your doors wide open for everybody, so for the whole community, and that includes everybody, it gave us a lot of time to practice with some very special groups. I work with some people in wheelchairs. I work with people with advanced MS. I work with a lot of stroke rehabilitation. And now when people come to study with us, for instance, if they come to do the teacher training, I just pack them in with me and they go with me. So they go out on the field and help me with the football team, and they go to the Brain Injury Network and they help me work with people that are in wheelchairs and suffering from traumatic brain injury. We have some people running a class for yoga for vets. We run a program for vets because the VA asked us to do that when we did some research on brain injury. So a lot of it came from just not ever saying no when somebody wanted to come and try. You know, and we always said yes. So at this point, for people that want to train with us, they can come and see what does hospital-based yoga look like. What does it look like to work with people that are schizophrenics? How is that different from working with people that are brain injured? How is that different from working with other kinds of dementia? What do you do with the breathing practices? What do you do with the yoga practices? How do you hold the room and hold the field and hold engagement with that person? How do you help them find some ease? How do you help them find their way? So we now have lots of different groups of people that we're able to help, and it's a huge advantage if people want to study that, if they want to get involved.
And are you able to bill through insurance companies?
Wouldn't that be wonderful? Sometimes. It depends. But what I'm excited about is this latest article that came out, I think it was in the New York Times, called Management by Mantra, which was about the gentleman from Aetna who had gotten involved in some Vini Yoga with, I think, Gary Kraftsau's group. And now he's talking about, you know, we need to be starting to bill for this. This needs to be something that's covered. So my dream, it's my dream, I don't know if it's anybody else's dream, my dream is that more of us become accredited, and that accreditation helps Western healthcare know what are yogis good for, when to call a yogi, right? What are they useful for? And that the insurance companies realize that, oh, this is one way to help people not go back in after procedures. So for instance, right now, the one of the tenets in Obamacare has to do with making sure that when people are released from the hospital, that they don't turn around and end up back in there again. So there are some rules and regulations around what happens if somebody gets released too soon and they end up back in the hospital. And I think what they're going to find out is that the kind of work that I do with people pre and post surgery, because I do a great deal of that, getting people ready to undergo a major surgery, and also getting them from after their PT is over back into their active life. This is someplace where yogis are natural, right? They're a natural with the issues that come up from being afraid of what might happen. They're a natural with the issues that come up physically. And it's a really good place for us to make our mark, because we can help these people have a speedier and more stable recovery, and less likely that they'll end up back in the hospital with some kind of an issue. We can help them understand what those exercises are and the procedures that they're supposed to follow and why it's important, and we can make sure they're doing it correctly. We can help them with that.
And do you think that's going to make a difference in terms of the profitability of a studio when people are able to come through their insurance? Because right now you mainly receive private. Yeah.
You know, I think the easy answer would be, yeah, that would be great. But I can also tell you that, for instance, for our massage business, we do bill insurance, and we are currently working with one project where we've been waiting for months and months and months to get paid. So will it help more people get in the door? I hope so. But if you think about it, the lag time between when you provide a service and when you get paid for that service isn't going to magically disappear. It's going to stay a pretty big lag time. So I think it's an important part of keeping us accessible to people as they get older and they can't necessarily afford private yoga therapy. If they end up on fixed income, they get to Social Security. It would be nice for them to be able to have a yogi come and help them with some things and have that be covered.
Yes, from a therapeutic standpoint and for the client. But I'm asking you as the
from
studio
a financial
owner,
standpoint, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I think that if we look at the medical model, what we notice is that there are a lot of doctors that either form a big group together so that they can pool the kind of administrative help that it takes to do that. Or we find doctors going off on their own and refusing to take any insurance at all because it's just too big a deal. So I don't know how it'll play out for us. I don't know.
Okay. And I understand that you have groups, but you also offer private sessions, correct? And you also sell some things in your studio, like yoga props and books and things like that. Now, where does the gross of the income come for you at your studio?
The gross, where does most of the income come?
Most of the income, yes.
Private work.
Private work.
Easily. Easily private work.
You mean individual private sessions?
Individual private sessions and small private classes for particular groups, right? So there are special groups that, for even the Brain Injury Network, these are private classes for private groups, but definitely from the one-on-one work, We've built a large one-on-one practice.
Your studio is at a certain level, then we know now these days there's something called corporate yoga, and we have corporations that are dedicated to yoga, which from the standpoint of the definition of the corporation, it may be interesting because corporations are very well defined in terms of the body and sometimes even the way they think, but they have no spirit, that's for sure, that it's not included, not even in the B Corps. So what do you think about yoga corp?
You know, I'm back to the more yoga the better, and I think it's fine. I again think that people will get their taste of yoga wherever they get their taste of yoga, and the ones that want to go deeper will find someone who can take them deeper. I think the idea that a yogi might want to have a corporation that spans the whole US of A and has yoga in it, like putting yoga in all the 24-hour fitnesses, I'm fine with that. I think that's great. It speaks, though, again, to this idea of accreditation and this idea of standards, because if you are going to put a corporation together that's teaching yoga all over the planet, and you can guarantee, as I do to Kaiser Permanente, you know, I'm only sending yoga therapists up there. I'm not sending somebody up there that doesn't understand the difference between cardiomyopathy and a heart attack. You know, they're going to need to understand what the difference is in those things to keep everybody safe. So, you know, if you're running a corporation and you're able to let the public know all of these people are accredited, all of these people are taught to a specific standard, and it's a national standard, then the public knows what they're buying. They know what they're getting. So it's okay.
Do you think that can in any way affect the core principles of yoga? Because, for example, as it came from the ashrams, let's say the ashram way, the teachings done in an ashram where everything may be a donation, where you may sleep in a dorm with other 15 people because we're done. And we are talking now of a fully established business that has as an intention to make money through yoga. Do you think that one may benefit more than the other yoga, or that yoga is at risk of losing some of its core principles in the transition or not? Or for you?
You know, I make my living teaching yoga. So I definitely collect money from my clients. So, you know, we're trying to make our living, and we're trying to impart some piece of awareness or some help with increasing awareness for body, mind, and spirit. So whether or not you're doing that with 1 million people, or you're doing that with my little group or your little group, I'm not sure that there's a moral difference from that perspective.
No, I don't. I agree with you that I don't see a moral difference. But I was wondering whether yoga itself could suffer in any way.
You know, I have great faith in yoga. You know, I think 4,000 or 5,000 years worth of translate it and move it and change it and bump it and do it and turn it to take it to America and all that stuff, and it's still powerful and strong, and people still have huge cathartic experiences in those gymnastic-y yoga classes. They do. And, you know, I think that the power of the practice comes through, and I don't think that we're going to be able to denigrate it in any way. I think yoga will outlive all of us.
Very probable. Robin, there's a number of people that these days want to have a studio or want to open a place. Or what would be your words of wisdom for them?
You know, I would think the best way to do it is to start small, which is not what I did. But if you started small and you built your practice and you built a nice following, and then you give some thought to whether or not you actually need a brick and mortar studio or not. There's some very popular, famous yoga teachers in our area that don't own their own studios and go from studio to teach and take their following with them to various events and trainings and things that they want to do. So I think that's a really nice way to do it. I didn't do it that way. I took it on, again, with my business degree, I took it on as a business model. I thought that it was a stable business model, that it would work. And so I dove in. I was not the lead teacher at my studio for many, many years. I hired lead teachers, and I ran the desk and taught a little bit on the side. So I wasn't interested in it from that perspective. I was interested in providing something that I thought was missing in the marketplace. This kind of yoga therapy I thought was missing in the marketplace at that time. And I came into, you know, being the lead instructor only over the last maybe, you know, 5-10 years. So I think that the whole process of yoga, the whole process of that coming together and running it as a business, I think if you were going to do that, I think it's good to start small. It's good to start small and build your way into it and then decide. Brick and mortar may start to be less and less interesting. In the Bay Area, with the rents going the way they are, it becomes more and more interesting for more people to share space, and for lots of different people to be using one room if you needed a room large enough to teach in. And it's maybe a wiser way to go than trying to start a studio in a brick and mortar fashion.
And is there anything you would tell them to not do?
Tell them to not do. You know, I would just tell them to plan on it taking twice as long and twice as much money. And if they plan that way, I think they will be fine.
So not to believe that the plan is going to play out as planned.
Yeah.
Yes. In your personal experience, with so many years in the business, is there anything you would do different?
I would have started small. No. Actually, I think, no. I mean, I think that for me, coming into the yoga business and having a business degree, one of the big dreams for me, and one of the things that I talked about with my teacher, with Rama, was balancing my yoga practice with my business mind, right? Because I used to get a great deal of, I used to spend a lot of time working for a lot of yoga organizations because they wanted a business head, right? And they would bring me in as the business head. And I was trying to balance those two things in my own company. So if I was going to do anything differently, I might have been a little more conservative in some of the ways that I pursued my business. I might have recognized that yoga therapy was going to happen even earlier than I did, and pushed a little harder over here and pushed a little less over there, you know, that kind of thing. But, you know, that's not the way life works for us, does it? Hindsight is always 20/20, and what we have is the task at hand. So right now, that's what I'm focused on. It's why I'm so excited this timing of the interview today with being accredited by IAYT, because I think that is the next step. I think that's where the future is going. I have certainly invested my time and my effort in that future, at that idea of a higher level of training and an accredited yoga therapist. And I think that's where it's going, and that's where I'm putting my attention now. So I'm moving forward.
Would you call that one of the because I'm inspired to ask you. You're very right that a lot of yoga teachers don't have a business mind or don't have expertise, and so a lot of times this is why people like you may be so much in demand. So if we were to divide a little bit and say, we're talking to the yogis, to those that don't know anything, what would be your business suggestion? You've given us the start small. Is there anything else you would say to them?
Yeah, I would say find your voice. I think that most yoga teachers have a passion for a niche in yoga, and it's fine to teach general classes and get your chops and learn to be in front of people and learn to hold the field and learn to handle that odd question that you weren't expecting and all those kinds of things. But I would say find your voice and follow your passion, because most of the people that come in to train with me, they have a passion about something. They have someone in their family that was hurt, or they lost someone that they love to some illness. Find that niche and that passion and go after that, because that group of people need you. And if you have a passion and you can develop your voice around that, that's a nice way to go. That's a nice place to go, to have a sustainable practice where people will come and find you because you're the one that understands about that.
I see.
Yeah.
And now let's say now we're talking to the business people that are thinking of yoga because it's so popular. Why not? What would be your yogic advice for the business people?
Hire me as a consultant because I'm already consulting with some other yoga businesses to help them develop a broader product plan, and also to help them understand who is their audience, who are they trying to reach, and how to reach those people. So from a business standpoint, it's the same as selling anything else. You need to know the audience and understand what they are after, what they're trying to get, and then try to decide what of those desires can you fulfill. You know, what works.
Wonderful, Robin. Thank you so much. It's
You're
been
welcome.
a wonderful
Thank you.
time to spend with you, and a lot of good information. So thank you. I wish you the best, and that your success continues.
Good. Thank you very much.
My guest today was Robin Gueth. She is a 38-year veteran in yoga and has been teaching yoga therapy for 20 years. She is a graduate of the American Yoga College, directed by Rama Jyoti Vernon, and is certified in Nischala Devi's Yoga of the Heart program. She has studied with Angela Farmer and Victor van Kooten, and her background includes Kripalu yoga, Iyengar yoga, Shiatsu and Thai massage, Feldenkrais, Dharma and Acu-Yoga. She is skilled in working with various types of mental illness, respiratory illness, and orthopedic issues. And her studio, the Stress Management Center of Marin, is the first Bay Area studio being awarded accreditation in yoga therapy training from the International Association of Yoga Therapists. I hope you liked our show today. And if you'd like to let me know, send me an email at antonio@yogiviews.com. I look forward to seeing you the next time.
Yeah.